Pako and Haldan. I chose this bonded pair for my courier for my next Playday Cards budget deck because they offer something that is both interesting and rather rare in the world of the Thief archetype. The ability to play your opponent's lands in addition to their non-creature spells. For this reason, I built the deck with Prominent Lands Matter sub-theme in order to maximize the value that we get from our commanders. The deck runs a modest amount of 15 creature spells, because it is rather commander-centric, and because we must do our best to avoid bricks that would be unplayable with Haldan and at the same time won't grow Pako. The creatures fall into three categories. First is the land-related package, which includes Sakura Tribe Scout, Llanowar Scout, and Bodoka Gardener. All of these creatures can tap to put a land from our hand onto the battlefield, and in addition, if we have 10 or more lands, the Gardener transforms into Dokai, Weaver of Life, a legendary creature that can create massive elemental tokens. The additional value of the first ability might not be immediately noticeable, but we have to remember that Haldan allows us to play opponent's lands from exile, which means these lands will be our land drops for the turn, and if we draw a land of our own, we can still put it onto the battlefield. Gretchen Titchwillow and Zimon Quandrix Prodigy provide similar ability with the added benefit that they can be used to draw cards. Mina and Den Wildborn is another great addition, both providing an additional land drop that can come from anywhere, and the ability to return a land to our hand and give Pako trample. The second creature package is Landfall, which capitalizes on the extra lands that we put out, and includes Tatyova Benthic Druid, which gains us life and cards. Filat World Sculptor, who comes with his own plant army that can grow either very wide or very tall, and of course the card no landfall decks can go without, Rampaging Bailiffs. Omnath Locus of Rage is also here, as the 5/5 elementals for each land drop is just too much value to pass up. I'll admit in most regions he surpasses my usual limit of €2/$dollars price ceiling, but he does so by very little, so I'll make an exception for it. Last but not least is the recently reprinted Tireless Provisioner, who nets us a treasure token for each land that we play, and this is very useful since we still have to pay mana for our stolen spells. The last package is related to playing stuff from exile, such as Faldon Dreadwolf Herald, which was great with our strategy providing us with wolf tokens whenever we play a land or cast a spell from exile. Now Fesni can provide massive value in copying the stolen spells we cast, and speaking of value, of course we have Etali Primal Storm, whose ability is quite on theme. Last but not least, Wild Magic Sorcerer, which gives Cascade to the first spell that we cast from exile each turn. Up next are the artifacts in the face of Prowler's Helm, Swiftfoot Boots and Winged Boots. All three are generally meant for Pako and provide either evasion or protection. Strionic Resonator is also here, as its usefulness cannot be overstated. This little artifact can copy both Pako's on-attack trigger to exile 4 more cards, but also copy the landfall trigger that we control. Similar to the creatures, the enchantment package mostly relates to lands and includes Druid class for the extra land drop ability and bonus life gain, and County Heart Expedition for the ramp and landfall proc. Valakut Exploration acts both as a landfall related draw engine that has a synergy with playing stuff from exile, and can also act as a finisher when combined with, spoiler alert, Nihilist Lithoforming. Imagine this: cast Lithoforming for say 7. You sacrifice 7 lands, preferably not those owned by you, draw 7 cards, and can then play up to 7 new lands either from exile or from hand. Valakut Exploration procs in turn and exiles up to 7 cards from your library, and if we don't play them, it will deal up to 7 damage to each opponent. Spicy. Up next are Zendika's Royal, which nets us the 2/2 elemental for each land we play, and Primeval Bounty, which is a value galore, giving us a 3/3 beast for each creature we cast, puts 3 +1/+1 counters on a creature for each non-creature spell we cast, and finally gains us 3 life for each land drop we play, which can help keep us alive longer. Last but not least, we have Wilderness Reclamation, which will be very useful if both allowing us to use the mana on our turn more freely, and refreshing it for any potential instant speed play we want to do on our opponent's turns. Speaking of instant speed, the deck runs a whopping number of 22 instants, with the vast majority of them being protection for our commanders, including but not limited to Blossoming Defense, Lazotep Plating, Mesium Skin, Ranger's Guile, Shore Up, Snakeskin Veil, which provide hexproof and our bonuses. Similarly, Tamio's Safekeeping, Tyver's Stand, and Gaia's Blessing provide hexproof and indestructible, with the latter also giving trample, thus allowing for potential offensive use. Speaking of offense, the deck also runs Psychotic Fury and Temur Battle Rage as potential finishers. Coming up next are the counterspells. Yes, we run those, including my favorites, Keep Safe and Turn Aside, in addition to the classic counterspell and Negate. Hinder and Memory Lapse are usually snubbed as counters in most decks, but here they truly shine, allowing us to put a bomb on top of the opponent's deck and then promptly steal it with Pako. For removal, the package is somewhat modest, with Expel from Araska, which can let us steal the targeted permanent from the top if we have the city's blessing, Cross and Grip, and the X-costed mass removals of Magma Quake and Starstorm. I just realized that the Return of the Wild Speaker is an instant, so I'll cover it again here. It is a nice spell that will be used predominantly for card draw, but can also serve as a finisher if you have a massive board of tokens from something like Zendika's Royal or Firelight World Sculptor. For sorceries, I focus predominantly on Land Ramp, with Circuitous Route, Explosive Vegetation, Migration Path, Rampant Growth, Cultivate, and Kadama's Reach. Others allow us multiple land drops, such as Summer Bloom, Broken Bond, which is a thematic removal, and Escape to the Wilds, which is synergistic draw 5. The last three sorceries are Chain Reaction as a board wipe, Wishker's Expertise as a solid card draw / value card, and Ahir's Lithoforming, which I already covered. The mana base is as good as can be expected from a budget deck, including a landfall themed land such as Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, as well as the Capenna ATB fetches, Broker's Hideout, Cabaretti's Courtyard, Maestro's Theatre, and Rivetier's Outlook, which can fetch 2 of our 3 colors. The Ravnica Bounce lands, Gruul Turf, Izzet Boilerworks, and Simic Growth Chamber, as well as Command Tower and Frontier Bivouac, cosplaying as our Ketria Triome at home. For utility lands, I chose Terrain Generator for extra land drops, Kessig Wurfon and Skark the Rage Pits as way to give Pako trample, and Rogue's Passage to make him unblockable. Last but not least are the basics: 14 forests, 6 islands, and 4 mountains, for a total of 39 land cards. Usually my non-budget upgrades are relatively tame, as I personally try to shy away from recommending let alone buying expensive cards, but since the theme is centered around lands and in particular multiple land drops, one might have to break the bank on this one. I'd like to underline that non-creature cards should take precedence. The first and probably most important upgrade is Passionate Archaeologist, as it synergizes extremely well with our strategy. Not only does it deal damage to target opponent whenever we cast a spell from exile, but more importantly we have 2 commanders, who we are trying to keep alive at all times, which means both of them have this exact ability. Since extra land drops are the bread and butter of this deck, I'd include some combination of Exploration, Burgeoning, Azusa Lost but Seeking, Wayward Swordtooth, Dryad of the Elysian Grove, and Oracle of Mordaya. Morag, Fury of Akum, is an absolute beast in this build, giving an extra combat for each land drop, and with each extra combat, Pako gives us 4 more cards to look at. This extra combat theme can be further enhanced by adding Aggravated Assault, Worlds at War, Seize the Day, Karlach, Fury of Avernus, Hellkite Charger, and Scourge of the Empty Throne. Last but not least are 3 creatures that also work well with our strategy. Avenger of Zendika and Scud Swarm can grow out of proportion really fast. And finally, Etali Primal Conqueror, which provides massive value and can be turned into Blightsteel Colossus at home. And that's it. Go forth and fetch yourself some value. Cheers!